Ever found yourself in a crowded room, yet felt completely alone? Not because you're shy or awkward, but because the chatter swirling around you just feels shallow. You listen to the small talk, the gossip, the endless rehashing of trivial events, and you feel a profound sense of disconnection. A little voice in your head might be whispering, "Is this really all there is?"
If you felt that, you're not antisocial, you're not arrogant, you're not broken. You might just be operating on a different frequency. This feeling of being an outsider looking in is the quiet burden of many deep thinkers. It's the strange paradox that the more you understand the world, the less you feel understood by it. You spot the patterns, read between the lines, and see the deeper meaning, while everyone else seems happy to just skim the surface. And in that space between, a gap forms, a silence, one that too often gets mistaken for loneliness. But what if I told you this isn't actually a story about loneliness? What if this feeling isn't a social failure, but a quiet sign of inner strength? What if the solitude you feel isn't a punishment but a pilgrimage? Today we're going to reframe that entire narrative. We'll tear down the myth that being alone is a sign of being defective. Instead, we'll explore it as a deliberate, even subconscious choice. A choice for depth over superficiality, freedom over conformity, authenticity over playing a part.
This isn't about failing to connect. It's about refusing to connect on false terms. Using wisdom from ancient philosophers and insights from modern psychology, we'll uncover why, for some of the world's most thoughtful minds, solitude isn't an empty void to be feared, but a sanctuary to be found. It's the place where the real work gets done. The true self is discovered, and freedom is finally won. We're going to explore the 5 great freedoms that deep thinkers seek in solitude. These aren't just excuses for being alone. They are the profound rewards of a life lived with intellectual and emotional honesty. This is the journey from feeling isolated to understanding that you are, in fact, protecting something sacred. Let's start with the single most draining part of social life for a deep thinker: the sheer, soul-crushing exhaustion of pretending. Think about the last social event you went to. The small talk, the polite laughter at jokes that didn't land, the careful dance of saying what's expected instead of what's true. For most people, that's just the background noise of life. For you, it can feel like a stage play you never auditioned for. The existentialist philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre had a name for this: bad faith. It's the act of lying to yourself to fit into a neat, socially approved box, of pretending to be simpler, less intense, and less curious than you really are. Every time you nod along to chatter about celebrity drama when your mind is really chewing on a concept from a book you just read, you're acting. Every time you shrink your vocabulary or suppress a challenging question to keep things smooth, you betray a tiny piece of yourself. The energy it takes to hold that mask up is immense. For some people with a gift for intense thinking, this becomes a survival skill learned from a young age, emulating peers just to get through the day with less friction. But that survival comes with a cost, a hollow loneliness that comes from being surrounded by people who know the mask, but not the person wearing it. You can be liked by a room full of people, but if they only like the edited, simplified version of you, the feeling of isolation is crushing. It's the gut punch realization that being with people who make you feel alone is so much worse than just being alone. The philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer was blunt about this. He saw society as a place that demands you sacrifice your true self. To get along, you have to find the lowest common denominator, which for a mind that craves complexity, is a form of starvation. Schopenhauer argued that the more you have within yourself, the less you need from others. Your inner world is so rich and fascinating that the outside world of shallow social games just can't compete. And so, the thoughtful mind starts to make a calculation. Is the fleeting comfort of being included worth the chronic exhaustion of being fake? More and more, the answer is no. Solitude, then, isn't an escape from people. It's an escape from the performance. It's the blessed relief of finally dropping the mask. In solitude, you don't have to translate your thoughts into a more normal language. You don't have to pretend to care about the trivial. Solitude is the only space where you can be fully, unapologetically yourself. It's a radical act of self-respect. It's choosing your own company, in all its complex questioning glory, over the company of those who need you to be a smaller version of yourself. This isn't loneliness, it's liberation. Now we get to the very engine of an intelligent mind, the non-negotiable need for deep, uninterrupted thought. The modern world is a conspiracy against deep thought. It's a constant fire hose of notifications, distractions, and demands for our immediate attention. Social life, especially, can be a minefield of interruptions. Conversations are chopped up, attention spans are short, and there's this constant pressure to be present in a way that kills real thinking. For a mind that naturally wants to connect ideas, follow a thread of logic to its end, or just make sense of a ton of information, this environment is actively hostile. In his book Deep Work, Cal Newport calls the ability to focus without distraction a superpower. But it's more than that. It's a basic need for a fulfilling intellectual life. And as Newport argues, solitude is the key that unlocks it. Think of your mind as a deep sea. The surface is choppy with the waves of daily chatter and social duties. But the real treasures, the big insights, the creative breakthroughs, are far below, in the silent depths. To get there, you have to be able to dive, leaving the noisy surface behind. Every ping from your phone, every trivial interruption, yanks you right back to the turbulent surface. This is why people who love to think instinctively crave solitude. It's not that they dislike people, it's that they are fiercely protective of their mental space. Solitude provides the quiet needed for the mind to do what it does best: process, synthesize, and create. It's in these quiet moments that you finally connect the dots between that history documentary, that physics article, and that philosophy podcast. It's where you can wrestle with the big questions about life that just don't fit into a casual coffee chat. The ancient Stoics knew this. They saw solitude as a training ground for the soul, a place to grow wise, away from the influence of the crowd. For them, true peace of mind came from separating what you can control, your thoughts, from what you can't, like social approval. Solitude is the lab where you strengthen that muscle. While cognitive intelligence helps you process complex ideas, it's social intelligence that helps you navigate relationships. Sometimes, a person is brilliant in one area, but less practiced in the other. They might yearn for the kind of deep, authentic friendship Aristotle described, a connection built on a shared pursuit of truth and virtue. That kind of bond is incredibly rare. So for them, most social life can feel like searching for a clear signal in a sea of static. The intellectual loneliness some gifted people report isn't arrogance. It's a deep hunger for that kind of real connection. So, the retreat into solitude is strategic. It's a choice to trade the illusion of connection for the real possibility of discovery. It's recognizing that groundbreaking ideas aren't usually born in brainstorming meetings. They're born in the quiet spaces where the mind is free to wander, explore, and make unexpected leaps. This is the freedom to think, to follow a thought to its end, and to build an inner world so vibrant it outshines any party. Next, we wade into one of the most courageous and isolating parts of having a deeply analytical mind: the resistance to groupthink. Humans are wired for tribal belonging. Our brains evolved to keep us safe, not by being right, but by being in agreement with our group. Getting kicked out of the tribe was a death sentence for our ancestors. That ancient fear is still alive today, in the form of groupthink, The tendency for a group to enforce conformity, leading to bad decisions. People bite their tongues and suppress their own opinions to keep the peace, and the group, as a whole, gets dumber. A highly analytical person feels this pressure, but their mind screams in protest. Where others find comfort in consensus, they find suspicion. Their thinking is built on logic, evidence, and asking why. They don't accept an idea just because it's popular. They take it apart to see if it holds up. And when it doesn't, they're faced with a choice. Speak up and risk friction, or stay quiet and betray their own integrity. This is the lonely path of the person who just can't help but see things differently. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche talked about the herd mentality versus the free spirit. For Nietzsche, the herd offers safety and comfort, but also mediocrity. The herd doesn't value truth, it values agreement. The free spirit, on the other hand, has the courage to stand alone, create their own values, and live authentically. As another philosophical giant, Søren Kierkegaard, put it, the crowd is untruth. This path is, almost by definition, a solitary one. This isn't just philosophy, it's backed by psychology. The famous Asch conformity experiments showed that people would knowingly give a wrong answer to a simple question just to go along with the group. The anxiety of standing out is so powerful it can literally make you doubt your own eyes. The deep thinker is often the person in the room who, despite the pressure, just can't bring themselves to say that the shorter line is longer. They are constitutionally incapable of unseeing what they've seen. This leads to a special kind of exhaustion. It's tiring to always be the one spotting the flaw in a popular argument. It's draining to have to constantly defend your reasoning. After a while, it can feel like trying to empty the ocean with a teaspoon. You're not just disagreeing with a person. You're fighting the massive gravitational pull of social conformity. So, solitude becomes a sanctuary. It's a clean room for the mind, a place where you can build your worldview based on reason, free from the contamination of social pressure and popular opinion. In solitude, you can build your own castle of logic, brick by brick, without anyone telling you it's weird just because it's different. This is the freedom from groupthink. It's the freedom to be intellectually independent. It is the hard but rewarding path of choosing truth over belonging, and integrity over acceptance. It's realizing that the price of fitting in is often your own mind, and that's a price you're just not willing to pay. The fourth freedom is about something very practical. The freedom to fiercely protect your own energy. For people with what psychologist Kazimierz Dabrowski called overexcitabilities, the world can be an overwhelming flood of sensory and emotional information. Their nervous systems are often wired with a higher sensitivity. They don't just see the world, they feel it intensely. Every subtle mood shift, every injustice, every bit of nonsense is processed on a deeper level. Life can feel like walking around with all your nerve endings exposed. This means that social energy isn't an infinite well, it's a precious, limited resource. 1 hour in a loud, chaotic room or in a conversation that's emotionally draining can wipe them out for the rest of the day. They aren't antisocial, their internal battery just works differently. Where others might get energized by constant interaction, the deep thinker is often drained by it. This leads to a quality over quantity approach to social life. They develop a very low tolerance for drama, the gossip, the manufactured outrage, and the emotional games that power so many social circles. To an analytical mind, this stuff isn't just unpleasant. It's inefficient. It's a terrible waste of mental and emotional energy that could be spent on learning, creating, or solving real problems. So, they become ruthless curators of their social circle. They're not looking for a huge number of friends. They're looking for a small number of resonant connections. They'd rather have one deep conversation a month than 30 shallow ones every week. They are selectively social. This isn't elitism. It's a simple, practical matter of energy management. Think of your energy as a budget. Every interaction is a withdrawal. A stimulating, meaningful conversation is a small withdrawal with a huge return on investment. A pointless argument or time spent with emotionally volatile people is a massive withdrawal with zero return. It's a bad investment. A natural pattern recognizer quickly learns to spot and avoid these bad energetic deals. This is why they can sometimes seem aloof or distant. They're not. They're just observing, calculating whether an interaction is likely to be a net gain or a net drain. They need significant time alone, not just to think, but to recharge their overtaxed nervous systems. Solitude is the charging station. It's where the noise of the world finally fades and their system can reset. This lines up perfectly with the Stoic ideal of focusing only on what is essential. The Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote constantly in his meditations about stripping away the non-essential to find peace. For the thoughtful person, much of modern social life falls into that non-essential category. It's a distraction from the real work of self-development. Choosing solitude, then, is an act of profound self-care. It's building a firewall to protect your mental and emotional bandwidth. It's a conscious choice to invest your life force where it truly matters. It isn't a rejection of people. It's a rejection of energetic bankruptcy. We arrive at the ultimate purpose of the solitary journey, the highest of the 5 freedoms. The freedom to truly know yourself. The ancient Greek phrase, "know thyself," was carved into the Temple of Apollo at Delphi. It's one of the oldest and most profound instructions in history. But in a world of constant noise and social pressure, it's also one of the hardest to follow. We are constantly being told who we should be and what we should want by our culture, our peers, and our families. Our sense of self can become a Frankenstein's monster of other people's expectations. The existentialists saw this as the central struggle of being human. They argued, we are thrown into the world without a pre-made purpose. Our great and terrifying freedom is to create that meaning for ourselves. To live an authentic life is to live in a way that's true to the self you've chosen and built. To live in bad faith is to let others define you. For the deep thinker, this quest for authenticity is a driving need. Their ability to self-reflect makes them painfully aware of the gap between their inner self and the social mask they wear. That pain is the catalyst for the journey inward. Solitude is the workshop where the authentic self is built. It's only when we're completely alone, away from the judgment of others, that we can start to hear our own voice. In the silence, the layers of social conditioning start to peel away. The shoulds fade, and a deeper truth emerges. You begin to separate your own desires from the ones you've absorbed from others. You examine your own beliefs, not the ones you inherited. You confront your own fears and motivations without anyone else's opinion clouding your vision. It can be uncomfortable, sure, but it's essential. Schopenhauer believed that a man can be himself only so long as he is alone. He argued that a love of solitude is really a love of freedom, because only in solitude are we free from the will of others. Eastern philosophies like Buddhism have long seen solitude as the path to enlightenment. They teach that our attachments to the outside world, including our social identities, are what cause us to suffer. By withdrawing into stillness, we can quiet the ego and connect with something deeper. This is the ultimate reframe of loneliness. What society calls loneliness is, from this perspective, the necessary ingredient for self-realization. It is not an absence of others, it is the presence of oneself. In this sacred space, you stop looking outside for approval and learn to generate it from within. You become your own source of comfort, your own intellectual sparring partner, and your own moral compass. The paradox is that by embracing solitude and finding your authentic self, you actually become more capable of forming true, deep connections. You no longer need others to fill a void, or to tell you you're okay. Instead, you connect from a place of wholeness, looking for other whole individuals to share a journey with, not to complete you.
This is the freedom to be the master of your own soul.
So we return to that feeling of being alone in a crowded room. But now, we see it differently. It's not a sign that you're broken. It's a sign that you're awake in a world that's often on autopilot. The title of this exploration, Why Intelligent People Almost Always End Up Alone, is a provocation. The truth is more complex. While some studies show that gifted people, especially when young, can experience more intellectual loneliness, other research shows that many highly intelligent individuals have rich social lives, especially if they have strong social skills. High intelligence doesn't doom you to isolation. The more profound truth is not that intelligent people end up alone, but that they often choose solitude. They choose it over the exhaustion of pretending. They choose it for the freedom to think. They choose it to resist groupthink. They choose it to protect their energy, and most importantly, they choose it as the sacred ground on which to build an authentic self. The path of the deep thinker has often been a solitary one. From Thoreau at Walden Pond to Nietzsche in the Swiss Alps, some of the greatest minds in history understood that to see the world clearly, you sometimes have to step away from it. This isn't a rejection of humanity. It's a different way of loving it, by refusing to take part in its illusions and daring to find a deeper truth. If any of this resonated with you, know that you are not failing at a social game. You are succeeding at something far more important, building an authentic life. Your solitude is not an empty space. It is a sanctuary. It is not a weakness. It is your greatest strength. It is the mark of a mind that refuses to settle, and in that refusal finds its ultimate freedom. The experience of solitude is deeply personal. What does it mean to you? Is it a source of pain, power, or something in between? Share your story in the comments below. Let's create a space for shared understanding. And if this message resonated, subscribe for more explorations into the philosophy of a life well lived.